We more or less figured out conception, pregnancy.
Oh, pregnancy. That's intense lessons, especially for conservative mothers. It shows very clearly where, how, and what needs to be worked through. The external environment pushes a woman to create conditions where she stays in the most favorable states possible. Because if a mother-in-law or anyone else is pressuring her, absolutely not. No, enduring is the worst thing you can do. The worst option is tolerating. The best option is to interact lightly, playfully, simply with enjoyment. Because the more a mother lives in states of happiness, acceptance, agreement, genuine pleasure and ease, the better it is for the child. At the same time, external signs clearly show where and what needs attention. This does not mean you should endure, because endurance immediately creates distortions that can even manifest physically in the child. When a woman suppresses herself, tolerates, and says, "I have to go through all of this through tension." No. We either go through these experiences with pleasure and ease, or we don't go through them at all. On the one hand, people say a woman should be accepting. That's an outdated idea, tied to the past, because the physical body needs to come in. But acceptance is the absence of resentment. You must not bring yourself to a state where you accept, but still feel offended. That is not acceptance. It creates difficulties for the child, both psychologically and physically. There are two key states during pregnancy. Acceptance, when a woman notices how free she is from resentment. This is work with the past, so that the child's physical body is strong. And jealousy, interaction with the future, is about agreement. When there is no jealousy, whether toward work, friends, acquaintances, or other women. This is also extremely important, because in that case, you give your child a green light for how effectively they will realize themselves and the physical condition they will live in. So the physical body directly depends on the level of acceptance, the absence of resentment, not suppressed resentment, but no resentment at all. That means lessons have been completed and necessary actions taken, and there is agreement when you are not jealous of your partner's friends, work, movies, music, hobbies, or the opposite sex. This combination is what creates the foundation for the birth of a healthy child. And every lesson a mother goes through is always an opportunity to strengthen the child's potential.
Is there a difference? Or how do events that happen to a mother during pregnancy influence things compared to her emotional state? Sometimes a mother's mood is wonderful throughout pregnancy because nothing much happens, shows, tea, everything is easy and pleasant. Or, on the contrary, there are many active events and lots of emotions. What does that affect? The child's destiny or the child's character? What exactly does it shape? The level of events or the mother's inner state, how she lives through her feelings and emotions?
The foundation there is authenticity. She is allowed to get angry, allowed to feel nervous, allowed to feel hurt, allowed to feel jealous. The key point is acknowledging it, agreeing that these beliefs have surfaced right now, wanting things to be different, even if it's not working yet. And of course, not entering situations where she has to push herself hard or overcome something intensely, because in that case, the level of struggle multiplies. And that struggle is then passed on to the child. If communication with the mother-in-law simply doesn't work, if she irritates you and leaves a negative aftertaste, don't communicate with her. This is not the time to build relationships or learn communication lessons. This is absolutely not the time. Pregnancy is not the time for that.
Okay, I'm saying this because there's this belief that if pregnancy was easy and calm for the mother, then the child's life will also be easy and calm, and everything will go well for them.
Most likely it will be inert, simply inert.
So there is a connection?
Yes, there is.
So it really exists.
When nothing happens, then nothing tends to happen later in the child's life either. The richer, denser, more meaningful the level of events a mother experiences, the more interesting the child's life will be and the deeper their experience of it. It all depends on how she responds to those events. But in my view, the higher the intensity in a mother's life, combined with the ability to switch and recover, the better. because many people struggle to conceive or face complications during pregnancy due to constant stress and tension. What if something goes wrong? They get stuck, become extremely rigid, judge everything around them, and think through negation.
But intensity doesn't mean I won't go on maternity leave until the very end. I'll work myself into the ground because otherwise...
You can see it yourself. What matters
So it's
is
about what feels good.
enjoying yourself, genuinely taking pleasure in life, and maintaining a balance between the energy you invest and the energy you restore.
Okay, got it. Developmental stages.
Let's put it this way. That first separation I should have mentioned earlier shows how well a mother went through pregnancy, because that separation is birth. The first separation is birth, when the child physically separates from the mother.
Right, exactly.
When the umbilical cord is cut.
Yes.
The physical umbilical cord is cut.
So the child becomes separate as matter.
Energetically, the child is one with the mother. Until about the age of 3, the child and the mother are a single whole energetically, but physically they're already separated. And this separation, I don't even know who experiences more stress, the mother or the child, who arrives and has their environment changed so radically that it is stressful. In general, life itself is stress.
Yes, we've noticed.
Exactly. That's why this is the first separation. And depending on how it went, there are many parameters. But because we still live in a dual world, easy childbirth does not mean the child will have an amazing life. There is still a correlation today. The more tension there was during the process, the richer and more intense the child's life will be.
So it's about the concentration of tasks
Yes.
that need to fit into this matrix.
If a mother's childbirth is, roughly speaking, like casually going out for a cup of coffee, then the child's life will also be like going out for a cup of coffee, flat and unremarkable.
By the way, there are births with oxygen deprivation that last many hours and so on. And then there are the opposite, I forgot what they're called, extremely fast births, when 15 minutes ago there were no contractions, and 15 minutes later the baby is already born. What does that indicate more? A personality trait?
It indicates many things, but mostly it speaks to the intensity of events in the child's life.
And where is the intensity greater?
When it's longer, harder, more problematic. But there is a point where intensity turns into serious health problems for the child. If the mother lacks acceptance, for example, our Masha had oxygen deprivation for more than 20 hours. Everyone thought it would be catastrophic, that everything was over, but she was born fine. Why? The mother had certain conservative patterns, and the child needed to be kept inside as long as possible. And as a result, you can see for yourself what's happening with her now, right?
A future professor.
Still, it affects the fact that she could have processed much more information, because some number of cells did die and could not be activated.
Maybe the unnecessary ones, so she wouldn't be distracted.
Again, we're talking about the overall picture. There is the mother, there is the child, there are the child's tasks, and there are tendencies. If the mother could not go through those tasks in a positive state, then areas of life, brain centers, and overall capacities are significantly compressed. And if you remember, at a certain stage in Masha's life, there was only her father and no one else at all. And then at some point, separation occurred.
Yes, a total daddy's girl.
Exactly. And the reason again was that the mother's internal software could not provide the necessary amount of energy, information, and responses, so there was a complete shift toward the father. But we clearly see that at that time, the processes were one-sided.
Well, there are things like the Oedipus complex.
Yes, that comes from there. That's why I say the more sincere the interaction between mother and father, the more trust there is, the more tenderness, kindness, and emotional presence, the luckier the children are, truly, deeply lucky. And of course, it is very desirable for each parent to be self-realized.
Okay, so childbirth is the first separation. But then there's another aspect. I'll explain it from a biochemical perspective, and you can add the energetic one. From a biochemical point of view, the mother starts breastfeeding the child, and a certain process is launched, this hormonal milk production system. And the mother continues to remain a single whole with the child. Nutrition through the umbilical cord transitions into breastfeeding. For some time, the mother feeds the baby, and her body undergoes a complete biochemical and hormonal restructuring. meaning she still remains somewhat less social, less outwardly open, more focused on life support functions. But there are cases when a mother consciously chooses not to breastfeed. We know that celebrities in particular often do this because they understand that if they don't start breastfeeding, the body recovers many times faster since the hormonal system barely changes. Recovery happens very quickly because the body interprets it as if the baby did not survive, since the mother is not feeding it. Accordingly, the body prepares to conceive the next child soon, and an entirely different physiological scenario unfolds for the woman. From an energetic perspective, does it matter whether a woman breastfeeds or not?
I'll outline 3 scenarios now and try to put them in order. The first one, when a mother breastfeeds, she saturates the child with ancestral energy.
Yes, through the milk.
She saturates the child with ancestors, and fundamental processes take place there. But if the mother has serious issues with her ancestral line and there is nothing beneficial there, the child subconsciously creates conditions for the milk supply to stop abruptly, because what comes through the ancestors would be unbearable for the child.
Impossible to process.
Exactly. But there is another case when mothers breastfeed until the child is 3 to 5 years old. That leads to an oversaturation with the past and a complete blockage of development.
Of separation.
And movement into the future.
Meaning a total absence of separation.
I'll give you an example. My brother's mother breastfed both of us. It was convenient for her. He was born. Then a year later I was born, and she fed both of us. There was nothing in stores in the Soviet Union, and she thought she was efficiently killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
Raising 2 at once.
Yes, but what did this lead to? My brother has enormous potential, truly massive potential, but he became an honorary retired miner, even though, in my view, he could have been a highly successful businessman. The reason, he was overloaded with ancestral energy.
Overburdened.
And this resulted in anxiety, doubt, indecisiveness, and a lack of inner core, because the mother transferred herself into him. Ideally, breastfeeding should end somewhere between 8 and 12 months. At that point, the child develops a stronger inner core, greater self-sufficiency, and separation becomes easier and more natural. But when a child is overfed in this sense, separation can become deeply problematic. And there is one more aspect we haven't talked about yet, but I'll mention it now, although you and I have discussed it privately. For mothers who give birth in water, separation never truly occurs. I honestly don't know the mechanisms of separation if a mother gives birth in water.
So these fashionable water births are...
Zero separation, a permanent energetic attachment to the mother. I don't even know how else to describe it.
So energetically, the child will be feeding the mother for their entire life? She will live off the child's energy?
I would say the opposite. The mother will continuously destroy the child energetically and block the fulfillment of the child's tasks and purpose. The child will, of course, do something in life, but it will be only a small fraction of what they are truly capable of. And this is not even considering that if the mother operates from tolerance and has potential, the child will likely accumulate elements associated with tolerance that are technically correct, but not viable. These are usually heavy metals, toxins, residues, all of that. And then there is a risk that the immune system will not eliminate these substances. This is often referred to as autism, because the mother held incorrect values, outwardly correct, but not aligned with true love, true kindness, true tenderness, true openness, and genuine communication. That is the underlying cause. I can say that as speeds increase and volumes grow, when there is potential and opportunity, and the mother blocks it with her correctness and adaptability, which usually manifests as guilt, duty, pity, and the belief that she must comply, must smile, must behave properly under any circumstances, this automatically leads to emotional suppression and a mismatch between inner and outer states. As a result, the child develops internal incongruence and accumulates all these harmful elements. And by the way, when a mother lives in correctness, she programs correctness into the child. That creates a high risk, if not of autism, then of autoimmune diseases. Autoimmune disease is when a person relies not on love, but on correctness. Spirituality imposed through correctness almost always leads to autoimmune conditions because life itself and the physical body begin to be perceived as foreign.
Okay.
People who are extremely scrupulous, skeptical, rigid, and categorical were often raised in this kind of spiritual correctness and therefore have a high risk of developing autoimmune diseases.
Returning to the point, breastfeeding or not. If, for example, a mother does not breastfeed, can that be considered a form of separation? Or the opposite, because separation occurs when a mother has given enough love at the right time, at the right age, and in the right quality.
Yes, there is a nuance there. When a mother clearly cannot give love, separation occurs through not breastfeeding. Or, alternatively, when she has given enough love, transferred valuable ancestral resources through her milk, and ended breastfeeding on time.
And on time means when exactly?
I already said, between 8 and 12 months.
Up to 12 months.
That's if we're talking about the civilized world.
Right.
If a mother lives somewhere in Africa, in extremely harsh conditions, that usually indicates very difficult ancestral circumstances, and much more ancestral energy needs to be transmitted. In such cases, she may breastfeed up to 5 years, simply because there is nothing else to feed the child with, and the mother, in that context, remains the child's immunity, protection, and primary source of survival resources.